Hello and welcome to TelecomTV's exclusive coverage of the Wi-Fi Global Congress in London. I'm happy to be talking with Khoong Hock Yun, who is the Assistant Chief Executive Development and the Chief Data Officer of IDA in Singapore. And IDA is the Infocom Development Authority of Singapore. Mr. Khoong, very welcome. I'd like to begin by asking you what you see as being the challenges and the opportunities facing the Wi-Fi industry right now.
Well, one of the biggest challenges is that people expect a lot from connectivity and connectivity via Wi-Fi. And yet, all the providers had problems trying to come up with a charging model that people would accept.
Sure.
So on one hand, zero revenue. On the other hand, you would have high expectation of quality of service. So I think that's the biggest challenge. But the opportunity is that Wi-Fi plays a very important strategic role in the overall connectivity picture. So be it use of cellular technologies, use of Wi-Fi, use of Bluetooth, use of Zigbee, these are all different ways of connect. And people live on connectivity nowadays. People couldn't just walk away with their smartphone unconnected, and it doesn't make sense to them. And so for a lot of services that's delivered through a smartphone, connectivity is important, and Wi-Fi plays a very important strategic role.
Now, I know, having been to Singapore in the past, just how smart the smart city Singapore is. And I know you have the Smart City and the Smart Nation program going forward. Tell us about how important Wi-Fi is there to begin with.
Well, we have we call the Wireless SG initiative, which started in 2006. And that's really a federated Wi-Fi deployment model. So we have 4 operators that work together. They deploy infrastructure, their own infrastructure, but yet they have a collaborative model, which allows any subscriber to roam onto their networks for free. So therefore, one way to address the issue, challenge, is that you try to reduce the capex as much as possible by sharing, so that helps. Secondly, to use that infrastructure for enterprise level services. So the enterprises are willing to pay for it because they need to perform as part of their normal operations, be it a point of service, point of sale, or it could be advertisement, or it could be something in the area of security that they provide the channel. So they're willing to pay for it. But for the public, they will then take that bandwidth and part of it, they will make it available to the public. So for us, all this connectivity which provides smart services delivered to the businesses, delivered to the people, are all part of this overall effort of putting up a smart nation.
Can you tell us what the difference is between the model, the Smart City, Smart Nation model as applied in Singapore compared to other parts of the world? There are many other cities that are moving towards or claim to be smart cities. Mm-hmm. What's the Singapore model? What's your USP, as it were?
Well, for us, one important aspect is that we have taken the Smart City initiative and elevated to a highly strategic level. So it's a national program. That's why we call it Smart Nation. If you think about it, today's the world's population is about it's about 7 billion people around the world. By 2050, we'll have another 2 billion people, bring us to about 9 billion or plus. And 50% of the population today live in cities. By 2050, it'll be 70%. So more people are really going to be in cities. So we can't continue to consume water, consume energy, consume food, consume manpower, even spectrum, the way we continue to consume today. So we can't linearly deal with those issues. So we need to find an exponential way of making things more efficient, making things more effective. And so Smart Nation is really Singapore's drive towards finding those solutions which allow us to do things 10 times better. Be it 10 times reduce manpower, but yet get the productivity up, 10 times less use of water, 10 times less use of energy, but yet be able to deliver on whatever we need to achieve for better quality of life, for better businesses. So that's where we're driving to. And one of the unique features that Singapore provides is we start by building the necessary infrastructure to enable all these capabilities to come around. So something we call a Smart Nation platform, which one of the pieces is to provide a nationwide sensor network, then provide the ability to deploy sensors quickly, powered by what we call aggregation boxes and connectivity by aggregation boxes, and then making such data available to the government so that they can provide more proactive services, provide data to the industry so that they can be much more innovative in how they can solve some of these very strategic problems for us.
Another question for you, Mr. Khoong, is have you in Singapore managed to solve the riddle, the conundrum of monetization? And a lot of what we hear about difficulties that Wi-Fi companies have is the service is there and people want to use it, but they want to use it for nothing. And they want it free. Have you managed to solve the problem of monetizing it apart from in the enterprise sector?
The approach that we have taken is firstly reduce the total capex, so by sharing the infrastructure across the different providers, operators. That's one. Secondly, putting in place a standard, so standard for authentication, which makes it a trusted network. Putting in place standards which allows for roaming, and it's basically free roaming across all the operators. Putting in place a standard which allows people to deploy services quickly and provide services to the business and population. So being a standards interoperable platform is better because instead of one service operator saying that I have so many subscribers, now it's a much bigger subscriber pool that uses this common network. So it's number one. Second one is to incentivize. For us as a government, we will incentivize the deployment to areas which the government feels is important, like public areas, community areas. So we'll subsidize the part of that infrastructure rollout cost. But also we want to incentivize the operators, interestingly, to make sure that they can get enterprise business onto the network. So the more enterprise business they can put on it, the more incentives they get from us. And the whole idea is that if they can get enterprise business on it, it will be a much more sustainable deployment going into the future.
Right. How successful are you being?
So far, we are into our 9th year in our program, so it's been going quite well, and we intend to quadruple the number of hotspots in Singapore, going to 20,000. The number of subscribers we have is about 2 million people out of a population of 5 million. So 40% are using this wireless SG. We have close to half a billion minutes half a billion minutes per month of data usage on this network. So it's been quite well received.
It's impressive.
Thank you.
It really is. Let's move back to Europe and the rest of the world. How do you think, and of course Singapore, how do you think the increased focus on licensed and unlicensed spectrum use, we've touched on spectrum, things like LAA and LTEU, how will that affect, first of all, Wi-Fi providers, and then vendors and then users?
Well, we are still very much in the early days on how LTEU will pan out. And of course, it will be the use of a common set of unlicensed spectrum. Of course, the equity on the use of that common space, it becomes important. The Wi-Fi, of course, group will be concerned on whether they will be crowded out. Because obviously the satellite operators have much more resources than the Wi-Fi operators. So I think that fairness, the equitable usage is important. For the users, I suppose it is quite important that we have a sense that we paid for a certain quality of service. So in licensed spectrum, I can clearly expect a certain quality of service from you. When I get into an unlicensed spectrum and I have voice on the unlicensed spectrum, would I get the same level of service? Or when I've dropped connections, what's going to happen? So the expectation, I think, needs to be set out well. For the vendors, I suppose there's going to be a bit of challenges. Again, there's going to be unequal muscle power. Those vendors who are clearly providing just Wi-Fi related equipment and services versus those who are providing cellular equipment, it's still a very unbalanced power. So how are they going to work together? Would one gobble up the other? How would that pan forward? I think it will be very interesting times.
Very interesting, thank you. Okay, a final question to you then. What about the WBA itself, the Wireless Broadband Alliance? How important do you think it is? What do you make of it?
Well, this is the first time I'm attending WBA conference, and I think it's a wonderful conference because it allows different constituents who are involved in wireless broadband to come together and to be able to share information. And it's very interesting that from this meeting, other topics like smart cities have been put in. So in ours, it's not just about connectivity, which is an important element, but also how connectivity can be used to better serve the population, serve businesses, and how do all the different technologies, complementary technologies, including 5G, LTE, how do they come together at the end of the day, provide us the necessary connectivity platform. So what is critical is interoperability for the consumers. What's important is standards so that we can plug and play things. And a forum like this brings together people to really know, concentrate on your end users, because if they don't like what they hear, they are not coming on board.
Thank you. And what about the event itself? So that's the WBA. We're here at this event by the Tower of London in London, just over the road there. So if anybody does anything wrong, they're in there pretty quickly. What do you make of the event? Has it been so far been valuable to you and relevant to you?
Well, this is, interestingly, I met so many people who tell me that they have deployed different aspects of their technologies in Singapore, whom I didn't meet in Singapore, and I come all the way here and I meet them, which is great because as we start to share information, you find different people having facets of things that they contribute to the overall solution, either in Asia, in Europe, or even America, and coming together says that if I understand the challenges that you are putting up, this is how we can be of assistance to you. And I think the connection, the networking is wonderful.
Excellent and very interesting. Khoong Hock Yun, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Marty.